Welcome to the Hay Kings podcast, brought to you by Crone, dedicated to hay and forage producers. I'm joined again by Stefan Hollmann. Stefan is in Australia. Welcome back for part 2.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Now, you've spent the bulk of your time in oat and hay and barley hay and wheat and hay. What other crops have you baled with it?
Oh, I've baled funny things with it. So yeah, like we baled a bit of grass hay, we do oat and hay, wheat and hay, we baled pea straw. So then we baled, of course, wheat and straw, barley straw. I've baled canola hay before.
That's an odd one.
That's an odd one. That's like in Australia, we can get frost in the same period when the canola is flowering. And if you know your canola is frost damaged and you don't, it's pointless leaving it in a paddock for grain because
it'll blank the seed pods and you're done. Yeah.
Yeah. So farmers actually cut it for hay and try to get something out of it. And we had it before. A farmer didn't have a baler, but his canola was frosted. So we went in there and baled it for him. Yeah, it's worse than oat and hay and wheat and hay because in Australia, the sugar content from the hay is very high. So if we're running at the moment plastic skeets in the chamber, so what they do is they stop the sugar sticking to the inside of the chamber. If you don't have that, I had it before, especially in that canola hay because it's so oily, that you have to stop every 15 to 20 bales, empty the chamber and go in with a jackhammer and hammer that sugar because it just bakes and inside it gets as hard as concrete and you got to hammer that out.
You're talking about the buildup in the corners of the chamber on high sugar hay. We have some of that here, but it's not like we're baling 17 to 20% sugar oat and hay. That would be abnormal here. Yeah,
we can have it in our what we call meadow hay, which is technically grass hay.
Yeah, just grass hay.
We can have it as well, and this year it was bad as well because obviously being so dry and don't have the tonnage per hectare, like the less you have, the more sugar content you have. Mm-hmm. And yeah, these plastic skeets, they help. So you don't have to empty the chamber, let's say any 20 to 50 bales anymore. If you notice you have a bit of buildup, you just release the pressure from the chamber and then put the pressure back on and it sort of comes out with it. Like it doesn't bake on the plastic technically, and that helps. And if you have a HTV2, it's actually worse. So,
okay. And what chamber liner are you using? I was wondering if it was bale skis or if there's an Australian equivalent.
Yeah, it's a farmer, and Crone allowed him to do that, and they sort of getting that plastic, I believe, made up in Germany.
Oh, okay.
So they ordering it's like plastic skis, and they call themselves chamber saver. So it's like a farmer and some employees from him. They do it. They drive around Australia, and if a dealer rings them and says, "Look, I've got 3 balers here. I want the saver set." No, what is it called? Chamber saver. Mm-hmm. Want that in my baler. They drive there and just install it. It takes about I think half a day or a day for one baler.
Yeah.
It's worth it because if you have to stop every 20 to 50 bales, it costs a lot of money.
It probably doesn't encourage employees to stick around when they're out there in the middle of the night or the heat of the day with a hammer and chisel knocking sugary concrete out of the baler.
No, it's not very nice. especially if you do oat and hay and you've got dust everywhere because oat and hay is more itchy than barley straw as a comparison.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Yeah.
Everything that Americans know about Australia is big snakes and big spiders and crocodiles. What's been your experience?
Actually, complete opposite. Because in South Australia, where I am, yes, we've got brown snakes, which is like the 3rd most venomous snake on the planet. But you don't see them very often, and they're usually more scared about you than you about them. So they usually disappear. So, and that's basically it. Where we don't really have poisonous spiders. There's one which might make you sick, but it's not like if you go to the northeast into Queensland where there could be absolutely everything and everything wants to kill you, and there's crocs. So it's not as bad. No, it's good. It's
Krone tedders and rakes are specially designed for one goal, making the cleanest green hay without causing damage to your field or crop. It's all in the tine design, which gently lift and move your crop while flotation tires lessen compaction. Krone offers the largest selection of models and range of sizes in the world, so you get what works best for your operation. Find your local Krone dealer at krone-northamerica.com.
I happen to know that there's precious little water in South Australia, and especially where you're at, they're piping water in from miles and miles and miles away just for residential use. So I can imagine that there's not a lot of wildlife around.
Oh, well, there's wildlife, but it's just not, we don't have like these high numbers of animals which are actually really dangerous. Like I said, you got that one, you got the snake, but you don't see them very often. If I see, for example, 5 to 7 snakes in a year, that would be probably a lot.
That would be a lot.
I see them because we work in the paddocks, and we drive on a lot of gravel roads and dirt roads, and they like to come out in the morning and lie in the sun. And you got the mice in the paddocks, so we're actually working there where they're living and where the food source is. So for us to see a snake is probably not a real unusual thing compared to people who are living in the cities and in towns. So
I just had to ask. I just know that the few times that I've stepped on a snake, I can guarantee you that I was more scared.
I'm not too scared about them. I find them fascinating, but if they come really close, I don't want to pet them.
Sure. Oh, I'm just thinking about the last time I stepped on a snake. I made it to the house in 3 steps, and it was a half a mile away.
That sounds about right.
What are you looking forward to in new balers? And I ask this because you just told me that the 6-string balers are maxing out the semi-loads in oat and hay in particular. We don't need to go denser. Is that right?
We don't need to. I think that's always what farmers want. They want to go more dense. The nodder technology is becoming more reliable and reliable. I think, like I said, the V-nodder is very reliable. The older nodder was very reliable as well. New things for balers. Sometimes it's really funny because there's new technologies out there, but companies are sort of blocking each other with patents, if that makes sense.
I'm aware of patent battles, yes.
Yeah, so you go to the company and say, look, I won't mind having this on a baler, and they just, say, well, we can't because another company has a patent on it. There's a few things I would like to have on a baler, like, for example, if you looked, I believe the Farm Progress show was not long ago, is that correct? If you look there, for example, on the new Messy baler in the small square baler sector, what they brought out, like a system where you can tell the baler, hey, I would love to have 40 flakes in my baler. Or I would have, 40 flakes in my baler. No, not flakes. I would love to have 25 kilogram in my small square bale. And the baler is setting its pressure itself up to achieve this.
Exactly 25 kg, 50 pound, 55 pound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's got the scale in the back, and it knows how many pressure it has on the doors from the chamber and all that. And my question would just be, why can't we introduce that into a big square baler? And apparently, other companies got patents on it and they block each other. But that would be, for example, a good thing to have on a baler. So say I want to have 650 kilograms and the baler just set itself up. Then other things, throughput is probably a thing you always want to have more, which obviously you got with the HTP2, which has a lot higher throughput than the 6-stringer.
I just don't know how we're going to go faster than 15 or 18 miles an hour in a field.
Like, look at like that. You can do maximum, I would say, depending what you bale. It's really hard to compare balers because technically, if you want to compare balers, you got to do it in the same paddock with the same crop. Because like I've done it before. We've baled wheat and straw one night, and then we were sitting on 450 kilo, for example, and then we just swapped the paddock and the variety, and the kilograms changed by 90 kilograms in the bale. So it's always hard to compare the machines, but like with a 6-stringer, you can do anywhere between, 55, 60 to maybe 70 bales an hour. And if you look at the 8-stringer, I've heard about, numbers where they bale in Germany up to 110, 120 bales an hour with them. So yeah. But you're right, where we want to go, what do you want to achieve? Like more throughput? Yes, but I reckon they could change the system in the future. Instead of using trines and nodders, different systems there, for example. That would be interesting if that ever is going to be available on the market, or if someone can actually engineer something like that. Because if you look in all these high processing plants in the States or in Australia, they're all
strap banding. Yeah.
So, it makes sense, but it's probably really difficult to do.
I'd not thought about that. That's interesting.
So I just think it's easier, but it's probably not easier doing it on a baler, but they definitely can handle more pressure than trine.
Yeah, because the exporting industry, they're doubling the density of the bales and putting plastic banding on it. So and I don't, I'm still struggling to think about doubling the density on some of these 8-stringer bales and really heavy. Oh boy, that would be amazing if you could.
Well, look, density-wise, I reckon you will be limited with balers in the future. The next level of density will be pellets, in my opinion. Pelletizing things is probably the next step to make it, more attractive for transportation. Because it's just less room, it's more dense.
But then there's a serious speed limitation with pellet machines.
Yes, and look, if you want to make more density with a baler, I think all you have to do, you have to make the machine heavier. Because if you create more force, you need something around that thing which creates the force which can actually hold that. And that's what I said. I said that to a mate of mine as well. I said, why can't we make more force on the chrome baler? And he was like, well, the machine already weighs 12 tons. So do you want to have a 20-ton machine behind the tractor?
Yeah. And how big of a tractor do you need to pull a 20-ton machine, right?
Well, that's the other thing. And, the machines are so expensive at the moment as they are. I think there's probably a lot of farmers telling you the same thing. We just can't afford the machinery anymore. And if they make the machines bigger and bigger and bigger, they will be more expensive, and no one can afford them. That's the biggest issue too.
Yeah.
Looking to make a lighter footprint across your fields? Run Krone rakes. Available in working widths from 12.3 to 15.1 for single rakes and 18.8 all the way up to 62.4 feet in the twin and 4-rotor versions. Choose from multiple sizes and configurations to sweep across your field, gently lifting the crop into clean and boxy windrows. Ideal for the hungriest baler or chopper. Learn more at www.krone-northamerica.com.
I'm glad to hear that that's a universal problem.
Yes, I think it's a universal problem.
It's worse in Australia because I think the exchange rate's something like 60 cents US buys an Australian dollar. So everything is more expensive in Australia, and you have to ship it to the other side of the planet.
That's right. Like in Australia, we don't manufacture anything, like hardly anything. It's like most of the stuff what we have here is imported from other countries. Well, not saying we don't build anything, but like I said, most things, it's just, and it's interesting because European technology becomes more and more popular in the last, when I came here 8 years ago, it sort of might have started there, Krone rakes, Krone mowers, Krone balers, or, other brands just becoming more popular. And like 10 years ago was not such a thing, probably same as in America.
What's the most popular baler in Australia?
I would say it's the Krone baler. Well, I can say in our region, it's definitely the Krone baler. In whole Australia, I don't really know. But where I work in South Australia, there's more Krone.
And on swathers or mowers?
It's a mix. That's a big mix. Like, there's all sorts of mowers. There's Krone mowers, there's messy mowers, there's older brands. It's just a mix.
Gotcha.
I won't say it, yeah.
And on the rakes?
The rakes?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a very interesting one. Like it's the same sort of story. There's still the old shingle rakes, then other farmers using rotary rakes, and that's the same story. You got Krone, you got Putchinger, you got Claas, you got so many different manufacturers, but they become more popular in the last 15 years, I would say too. They like the old system was probably like you do in America, the old V-rake, the old shingle rake, and I've never seen these things before I came to Australia. I grew up with a rotary rake from Claas or from Chrome. That's how I grew up. So I had no idea what these rakes are and how you're going to use them. So I only got introduced to them 8 years ago.
Yeah. There's some big rakes. I'm fairly certain that the largest rake that I've ever seen was in Australia. And I don't know, it was 20 meters, 60 feet, 65 feet, somewhere in there. Does that sound right?
Well, it was at a V-rake? Like
it was a V-rake?
Rake?
Yeah, it was a V-rake. Yeah.
Krone makes a 6 rotary rake, which goes up to 19 meters, I believe. So that's what I know is the widest rake.
Yeah, I saw it was a farmer made, I think it was 20 or 21 meters. It was huge. And I do not envy the guy that has to pull that much hay together to make a windrow.
Well, the Australian farmers are very innovative because, if they want something wider and there's no company which is building these kind of machineries, they just go in their workshop and make it themselves. So
yeah. Stefan, this has been a fantastic conversation. There's just very few people that have baled as many bales as you. And I know you're really humble about this, but you've seen a lot of hay bales compared to almost everybody else. So it's wonderful to hear your opinions and thoughts.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's I find it very interesting what I've done, and the different stuff I have baled. I would say, like the different crops and the different technology I've used and what I've seen in the last 8 years. Now I really love it. I have a big passion for it, and thanks for having me.